The 5 stages of grief. What happens when we experience loss? Have you ever wondered why losing someone or something important can feel like an emotional roller coaster? One moment you're in shock, the next you're angry. Then maybe you're bargaining, feeling depressed, or finally beginning to accept what happened. These emotional reactions are often described as the 5 stages of grief, a concept that has shaped how millions of people understand loss. But grief isn't as simple as moving through 5 neat steps. It's far more complex, unpredictable, and deeply personal. Today, we're going to explore what grief really is, where the 5 stages came from, and what each stage feels like. We'll also look at common misconceptions and discuss why everyone's grief journey is unique. Let's begin. What is grief? Grief is the natural emotional response to loss. Most people associate grief with death, but grief can occur after any significant loss. You might grieve after losing a loved one, going through a divorce, losing a job, experiencing a serious illness, losing a pet, moving away from home, losing a friendship, even losing a dream or future you imagined for yourself. Grief affects much more than emotions. It can impact your thoughts, your physical health, your sleep, your appetite, your relationships, your ability to concentrate. Some people cry constantly. Others feel numb. Some become angry, while others withdraw completely. There is no single correct way to grieve. However, one framework has become particularly famous for explaining the grieving process. The 5 stages of grief were first introduced in 1969 by psychiatrist Elisabeth Kübler-Ross in her groundbreaking book On Death and Dying. Interestingly, Kübler-Ross originally developed these stages while studying terminally ill patients who were facing their own deaths. The model was not initially intended to describe how family members grieve after a loss. Over time, however, psychologists and the public began applying the framework more broadly to many forms of grief and loss. The 5 stages are 1. Denial. 2. Anger. 3. Bargaining. 4. Depression. 5. Acceptance. Let's examine each one in depth. Stage 1. Denial. Imagine receiving devastating news. Perhaps a doctor delivers a diagnosis. Perhaps a loved one suddenly passes away. Often the first reaction is disbelief. Your mind struggles to process what has happened. You might think, I can't believe this. This must be a mistake. There's no way this is real. This is denial. Denial acts as a psychological defense mechanism. It temporarily cushions us from overwhelming emotional pain. Think of it as your brain's emergency shock absorber. Without denial, the full impact of the loss might feel impossible to handle all at once. Denial doesn't necessarily mean refusing reality forever. Instead, it often provides time for the mind to gradually absorb the truth. Some people experience denial for hours. Others may experience it for weeks or even months. Stage 2. Anger. As reality begins to sink in, the protective shield of denial may weaken. Then another emotion often emerges, anger. This anger can be directed almost anywhere. People may feel angry at doctors, family members, friends, society, God, the person who died, themselves. Thoughts may include, why did this happen? This isn't fair. Someone should have prevented this. Anger often masks deeper emotions, such as fear, helplessness, sadness, and vulnerability. For some people, anger feels easier to express than despair. It can provide a temporary sense of control during a time when life feels chaotic and unpredictable. Although anger can be uncomfortable, psychologists generally view it as a normal part of the grieving process. Stage 3. Bargaining. The 3rd stage involves bargaining. This stage is characterized by what if and if only thinking. People begin mentally negotiating with reality. Examples include, if only I had convinced them to see a doctor. If only I had called more often. If I become a better person, maybe things will somehow improve. Bargaining often reflects our desire to regain control over an uncontrollable situation. The mind searches desperately for alternative outcomes. People may replay events repeatedly, looking for ways the tragedy could have been avoided. Unfortunately, this stage can also bring feelings of guilt and self-blame. Individuals may hold themselves responsible for events that were never truly within their control. Recognizing these thoughts as a normal part of grief can help reduce unnecessary guilt. Stage 4. Depression. Eventually, the reality of the loss may become impossible to avoid. This is often when deep sadness emerges. This stage is known as depression. It's important to understand that grief-related depression is not necessarily the same as clinical depression, although they can overlap. During this stage, people may experience intense sadness, frequent crying, fatigue, loneliness, changes in appetite, sleep problems, lack of motivation. The future may feel empty. Activities that once brought joy may no longer seem meaningful. Many people mistakenly believe they should avoid feeling sad. However, sadness is often a healthy response to loss. It reflects the significance of what has been lost. In many ways, grief is the price we pay for love and connection. Stage 5. Acceptance. Acceptance is perhaps the most misunderstood stage. Many people think acceptance means happiness. It doesn't. Acceptance does not mean approving of the loss. It does not mean forgetting the person. And it certainly does not mean the pain disappears. Acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is. The loss becomes part of your life story. Instead of constantly fighting reality, you begin adapting to it. You may still feel sadness. You may still miss the person deeply. But you gradually learn how to move forward while carrying those memories with you. Life begins to feel manageable again. Moments of joy return. The future becomes imaginable. Acceptance is not about letting go of the person. It's about learning how to live after the loss. The biggest misconception about grief. Here's something important. Many psychologists today emphasize that grief does not usually unfold in a neat, predictable sequence. People do not necessarily move from denial to anger to bargaining and so on like climbing a staircase. Instead, grief often behaves more like waves in the ocean. You might feel acceptance one day and anger the next. Months later, a song, photograph, or anniversary may suddenly bring back feelings of sadness. Some people never experience all 5 stages. Others experience additional emotions not included in the model. This is completely normal. Grief is messy because human emotions are messy. Other modern views of grief. Modern grief researchers have expanded beyond the 5 stages model. Many experts now emphasize concepts such as continuing bonds. Instead of moving on from a loved one, people often maintain an ongoing emotional connection with them through memories, traditions, and stories. Dual process theory. This theory suggests people naturally alternate between confronting their loss, taking breaks from grief, and focusing on daily life. This back-and-forth process helps individuals gradually adapt. Meaning making. Many grieving individuals eventually seek meaning in their experiences, finding ways to honor the loss while rebuilding their lives. How to support someone who is grieving. If someone you know is grieving, your support can make an enormous difference. Helpful things to do include listen without judgment, allow them to express emotions, be patient, offer practical help, check in regularly, avoid saying things like, just move on. Everything happens for a reason. You should be over it by now. Grief has no timetable. Often, the most helpful thing you can say is simply, I'm here for you. Grief is one of the most universal human experiences. At some point, everyone will face loss. The 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, provide a useful framework for understanding some of the emotions that may arise. But grief isn't a checklist. It's a deeply personal journey that looks different for every individual. Whether you're grieving yourself or supporting someone who is, understanding these stages can offer comfort, perspective, and compassion during life's most difficult moments. Because while grief may never completely disappear, over time we learn something remarkable. The pain of loss can coexist with healing, growth, and hope. And that is part of what makes us human. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating insights into psychology, human behavior, and the science of everyday life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.